The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Health and Wellness channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericahealth.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management. Welcome to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Are you trying to master the game of life without success? There are secrets and strategies to living your best life. We'll share some of them with you on today's show. Take advantage of this series to become an expert at relationships. All relationships. It's time to live the life that you deserve to live. Now, here's your host, Sandra Reish.
Hi, welcome to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Very exciting show today. We are going to be discussing one of my favorite topics, relationships, latest research, and treatment options. I have in studio today with me someone very special to me. He's the clinical manager of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression, where I work. And I invited him because I want him to add his feedback as someone who's watching what's going on around here and on my retreats, what he's observed in terms of the different treatment options. Let me tell you a little bit about Robert before we go any further. He's been working for the center for 3 years, and he not only manages the clinic, but he also runs groups on mindfulness. And I have to say, Robert, you were an amazing yoga instructor at our last couples retreat, to the point that the couples said they wouldn't come back unless you came and did yoga. So welcome to Straight Talk, Robert.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for having me as a guest. I am honored to be here with you tonight.
Okay. So you're happy to be on the show. How do you feel about all that's been going on at the center and the retreats?
You know, I have to say that, the center has been going amazing. The people at the center, they come in here, they're looking for help for anxiety treatment, they're looking for help with their relationships. And I find that the center and the retreats are doing fantastic.
Okay, so let's start by talking about relationships in general. So before we talk about retreats or the center, I want to talk about what we know to be true about relationships these days, because I've mentioned this on previous shows, but I think it bears so much importance, is that we do have a lot of science now on relationships, and I have briefly talked about it on previous shows. I want to go a little bit more into what we know to be true. There are 3 experts in the world in psychology. I mean, there's hundreds of experts, thousands of experts, but there's 3 people, in my opinion, that have really revolutionized psychotherapy on relationships. And I want to share a little bit with the listeners what is so interesting about their work. So the first one, I'm very proud to say, is a Canadian. We're actually hoping to get her on the show. Her name is Dr. Sue Johnson, and her work has been really on the concept of attachment. And why is attachment so important in relationships? Well, the way you respond to your partner, and the way you respond to your partner, particularly when you're stressed or in conflict, is directly related to something called attachment. So I'm going to explain a little bit more. We'll bring you back, Robert, when we talk about how this involved, how we use this at the retreats. But I want to explain for people listening what attachment means. So when we're small children, in our first 3 years of life, we learn how we attach to people with our loved ones. So, example, a baby is in the crib, baby is crying, calls for parents, parents come, they soothe baby, baby grows up, has what's called a healthy attachment. Unfortunately, that is not the case for everybody. Sometimes the baby cries, parents may be busy, may not be available. Baby cries louder. No one comes. Baby cries really loud, and parents come. And those babies tend to grow up with something that we call a pursuant attachment or an anxious attachment. So this is your adult who, when they're upset, tends to be really wanting to solve an argument. Okay. So I'm laughing because we're going to talk about the third attachment style. And I'm laughing because Robert works with me and our attachment styles even play out at work. And it definitely plays out in your relationship. So again, an anxious attachment style would be somebody who feels that if there's tension, they want to resolve it. So their way of coping in the world is to reach out. But there's a third kind of baby. There's actually many options, but for the sake of the show, I'm not going to go into all of them. There's a third baby that calls for their parents, and the parents don't come, and the baby cries some more. Parents don't come, and the baby eventually gives up and says, again, very unconsciously, there's no point to crying. There is no point to this, and shuts down and does their own thing. So what we know about attachment theory, and again, I got to really hand this to Dr. Sue Johnson because she's the one who really brought it to us or really highlighted. This is work that goes back even before her, but she made sure to make it very mainstream and bring it into love relationships. So you get into a love relationship or you get into a manager-boss relationship or a friendship relationship, and the first moment of tension comes up, and one person wants to run away and not deal with it or says, whatever, let's move on. And one person says, we need to talk about this, and you have your first sign of trouble. So even in an office, there's been times with many of our therapists, not only with you, where, of course, I'm the type of baby who grew up that when there's an argument, I want to resolve it. And by the way, people who have that attachment style are very drawn to the opposite attachment style. So you might be listening right now and thinking, that's so weird. It's just like me and my husband. I want to talk about things. He wants to run away. So Robert, you're pretty open about the fact that you're more the avoidant attachment style. So what happens to you when you feel tension? What happens in your body? Do you want to talk about it with the person, or what happens as an example?
Well, for me, I'm definitely an avoidant. I really, even working at the center, I realize what kind of an avoidant I am. My instincts is to run, to get away from the uncomfortable situation. I don't like the feeling of being uncomfortable, so I just want to leave.
Now, in couples, unfortunately, and even in friendships, when somebody walks away, the other person is left feeling that that person doesn't care about them. So this leads to a lot of conflict in marriage. So what's actually happening is that both parties are having an anxiety response to a certain extent. The first one wants to resolve. They're feeling anxious about it. And the second one is also feeling anxious. So they want it to go away. And this is where people end up in couple counseling. This is one example, because they're like, I'm trying to talk to my partner and he or she doesn't want to talk about it. What am I supposed to do with this? He or she obviously doesn't care. And this has led to a lot of the cases that I work with. And Dr. Sue Johnson's work was helping couples to understand their attachment styles are really just a reaching out for love, that none of us want to be abandoned. The avoidant doesn't want to be abandoned. The avoidant abandons to avoid being abandoned. And the pursuant is actually begging the person to stay because they don't want to feel abandonment, because I want you all to know this is a fundamental fear of all people, to be abandoned. So, Robert, you've seen so many couples come to this clinic. I'm sure in the work that we do here, you've observed how many times this plays out in couples.
Oh my goodness. So many times I've seen this play out. And it's actually very interesting, because the couples would come here and they want to see you. And then you got the nickname, the couple whisperer, because you really get them. You just have a way of really connecting with the couples. And
thank you, Robert. You're trying to get a raise. I'm just kidding. Thank you.
So it's amazing, because we see the styles, we see the people play out, these roles play out, the avoidant, the pursuer, and you're able to really understand what's happening with this couple and why this roles play out.
Well, it's really well said, because I appreciate the compliment. These things that you say are very nice, but the truth is it's a dance. And once me or you or any couple understand the dance, they also could be the couple whisperer, not only me, but they have to understand that there's a dance going on. When someone's leaning forward and someone's leaning back, there's reasons that's happening. So we want definitely for clients and couples who are struggling to know about this. So to me, attachment theory is one of the things I'm really big on teaching. We're going to talk about how I bring this to the retreats, but I want to mention two other people that have really really profoundly affected me in the research on couples. And one is Dr. John Gottman. And he is a very famous psychologist with his ability to predict with something over 90% accuracy if a couple's going to divorce based on how they react during a fight. So he found out that when couples fight, if one person is sarcastic, if one person is defensive or rolling their eyes or stonewalling, which is walking away or refusing to talk, these are predictors of divorce. And I should mention that criticism, which is what he calls one of the four horsemen of the well, I don't know how to say that word. Acopolis, something like that. Anyways, when the world's going to end. You know what I mean?
Apocalypse.
That's the word.
There you
Anyways,
go.
that women tend to be the critics. Okay. And men tend to get defensive. And so once we start that, one's criticizing, one's defending, one's, being contemptuous, which by the way is eye rolling. Mm-hmm. I'm rolling my eyes. You're so ridiculous. I don't want to listen to you. These are predictors of divorce. I'm wondering, you're not a therapist, but I'm wondering if you could understand, even listening to this, why would me rolling my eyes at you or getting defensive or criticizing you, why would that be such an issue?
You know, for me, it seems like you don't care. You're disrespectful. What I'm saying to you doesn't matter to you. You're not taking it seriously. It's to me, it's a key that I'm not being understood. I'm being judged.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So it breaks right away the connection because if you're being judged, you're not likely to be into me at that moment.
No.
So your triggers are going to be activated. So we can even bring back the attachment. You're going to want to run away.
Definitely.
Right? If I'm rolling my eyes at you, you're going to run away. So these are things that we want you to consider. We wanted to give some of these tips today and also talk about treatment for these things because there really is an education because I certainly did not know that eye rolling was a predictor of divorce. And I think many of my couples come in here and swear at each other and do something called character assassination. And they say, oh, it's okay. It's all in fun. And actually, character assassination leads to a very big problem. So it's okay in a couple to have conflict. As a matter of fact, couples who don't have conflict the research shows they don't have very intimate relationships. So we need conflict, but we need a language of how to do conflict. Okay. So the third guy that came up with some incredible stuff is Harville Hendrix. And that's actually a lot of the stuff that came up at the last retreat. So I'll just briefly mention that and we'll talk about sort of how we bring that into therapy and this new product that we have going on couple retreats and why we started to do that. So I'll just mention that Dr. Harville Hendrix' work, again, I'm really hoping to get some of these people to come on and explain these things in their own words. His work shows a lot about your past playing out in your couple and how the wounds of your childhood will affect your couple. And I think, Robert, even you and I sitting in the office as I teach you some of this stuff, I think you've even connected a lot of dots from your childhood as to some of the behaviors you do. I mean, it's been incredible to watch you grow.
I have to personally say that when I before I worked for you and then working for you, I didn't even realize how my wounds from now are being played out because I didn't address my wounds from childhood.
Yeah.
And I personally think, I think very highly of you. I find that you helped me personally understand myself so amazingly well. I feel like I'm a better person now because I understand where the things are coming from.
Well, again, you're being very kind to me, but the truth is it's not me. It's actually this science. I mean, I hope I teach it well, but the science is to teach people to understand that, again, I say it almost every show, those who forget the past are condemned to relive it. We're going to have to take a short break, but we'll be right back with Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Your favorite Voice America Talk Radio Network shows and hosts are in your car, outdoors, and wherever you need them to be. Listen anywhere. Get our mobile app for iPhone, BlackBerry, or Android at the Apple iTunes App Store, BlackBerry App World, or Android Market.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reish, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling. Bring your intimacy to a new level. and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Your body was originally designed to run smoothly and efficiently. What starts to cause problems is when we don't take care of our bodies. Lack of exercise, poor food, and unusual stress levels can all take their toll on our system, and the end results aren't pretty. Tune in to Mr. Wellness with host Ian Clark. Through interviews with the experts and best health practices that you can do, we'll do our best to keep you running at your best. Listen every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Voice America Health and Wellness.
Follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. It's such an interesting discussion because relationships, who isn't in a relationship? Whether it's romantic, whether it's with your family, we're all in relationships. And isn't it wonderful to know that there's a science and there's things we can learn to make all our relationships better? And call me a bit of a Pollyanna, and maybe you can. But if our relationships are better, I think the world would be better. And that's really what drives me to do this kind of work. I know you had a question about that, Robert.
Actually, it's very funny that you said that. I personally spend a lot of time with you. I see you're super busy. You have tons of couples that want to see you, that they love you. What led you to decide to be like, you know what? I need to do couple retreats. You're a busy woman. So what made you want to do this?
Great question. And I appreciate the question because I found that in the office, I can take couples quite far, but I found I always was limited by the clock. So the sessions, a normal session with a therapist, 50 to 60 minutes. And some of the things you have to learn, we were talking about Dr. Hendrick's work before, we were talking about learning about your past, your childhood, connecting the dots from your childhood to the behaviors that are happening now, attachment, the things we've just gone through. They just don't fit into an hour. So I could do it over many hours, but I got the idea about what about going to some beautiful place? I know you got excited when I mentioned the beautiful place.
I did.
And how about taking some couples and see how it goes to make an experiential 4 days away, and something very magical happened. It was more of an experiment to see, is this going to be interesting? Because whether I work in the office or whether I work in the tropics or somewhere else, I mean, it's nicer in the tropics, but the goal is to see if we can get couples to be closer and have more intimacy and feel happy in their relationships. We have a very high divorce rate. And by the way, the second marriages have an even higher divorce rate, which means people are not learning what's causing the problem. I personally believe that people have to earn their way out of a marriage. So we took a chance and we booked this retreat to Mexico this year. And I asked you to come along as my mind-body specialist because I also felt that I would have the luxury, and you did such a great job of this, Robert, of having people also integrate body work, not only staying in their heads. And I wonder, because you started the day with your yoga, I wonder how you felt that would fit in. I mean, I know what you told me. You came to me and said, I want to come to Mexico. And I said, well, you can't just come to Mexico for your good looks, Robert. You have to do something. And you convinced me on this yoga concept. So tell everybody what your thought was on this.
My thought when it came to working with the couples was also to work. I know Sandra's going to do a brilliant job working with them in terms of the dialogues and relationship building, communication and everything. But I thought it would be also important to integrate the body and being able to be in touch with your body, your movements, your breath. We also did some guided meditation. So it really allowed the couples to connect with themselves, which made them more open to connecting with each other and more prepared for taking in what you were going to be teaching that afternoon.
And I was really impressed because by the time you got them to the room, and this is not something I can do in a therapy center, they already had opened up their bodies. They were relaxed because anxiety is another factor. We know also, this is also Dr. John Gottman's work, is that men in particular, for example, can get what he calls flooded very quickly. Their physiology is different than women. So in the middle of a fight, if you measure heart rate on a man, it goes up very, very fast. So does blood pressure. So doing yoga or integrating body work kept everyone very, very, very relaxed. So by the time they came in, there was a different vibe in the room. And I think you noticed that we had the gift of time. And the gift of time seemed to affect people in a really interesting way. Did you notice that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really allowed people to, really be within the process. It wasn't rushed. They had the time to, like to begin the day with yoga, meditation, take in the exercises that you gave them. And they were some of them, they were quite heavy and intense work. And it gave them that time to practice it, come back, process it with you, and really understand what's going on.
And another thing I loved so much, but I have an email, we'll get to that in a minute, is I love the fact that since they are in beautiful locations, the couples could go off in the evening and spend time practicing the exercises. And they were very motivated. They had spent the money on the retreat. And so we actually had them practicing new ways of communicating. And we'd see them in the hallway. Wasn't it extraordinary? We'd see them in the hallway and say, come on over here. And we had one couple that was having trouble even looking at each other when they came on the retreat and making eye contact. They were having a bit of a hard time. And through having these discussions, we literally had to photobomb them because it was just so incredible what happened.
Beautiful work. This couple wouldn't even want to look into each other's eyes. They were in so much pain. Some people that come onto this retreat are in a lot of pain. Their relationship is really not where they want it to be. And that was an amazing couple that came in. They couldn't look at each other. By the end of the retreat, they were looking into each other's eyes.
It was beautiful.
It was absolutely beautiful.
But they had to go back to the past to understand why they were each behaving, which is, again, we don't like to do that because none of us want to blame our parents. And a lot of people like to say the past is the past. And I'm with you guys. I'm with you. The past is the past. And I'm not into parent blaming, but the past is a part of you. And some psychologists say that when you're in bed, and you're not going to like this image, but when you're in bed with your husband or your wife, you're also in bed with their parents and your parents. I think it might be Dr. Sue Johnson who says that. A scary image, but there's some truth to that. We do have an email. I want to get to that. So Joanna sent me an email asking, are the couples on these retreats in dire straits, or are retreats even for happy couples? We're pretty happy. We're not sure we would benefit from this. So I'll say my bit. You can say yours. Sure. This retreat, we had almost like a mixture. We had people like the couple you just talked about who were having a very hard time. Mm-hmm. And we had couples who were doing great, but just wanted to get to another level of intimacy and closeness. What were your feelings on that?
My feelings when it came to this retreat is that this retreat could absolutely help anybody and everybody, no matter where they are in their relationship. Whether you want to take your relationship to the next level, whether you are worried that your relationship is on its last leg, this relationship will be an unbelievable life-changing experience because you will really get to hear your partner. You'll be able to really get to hear yourself.
So even if you're doing well, it can be very helpful. And I don't want this to seem like a sales pitch. So I do want to say it doesn't have to be my retreat. We're talking about couple retreats in general. Mm-hmm. We're talking about perhaps investing in your couple. My husband and I are big believers in doing this kind of thing. I think often we go off and we'll do a course for couples. It does not have to be this retreat. Mm-hmm. Of course, we love our retreat. We'd love to have you. But I think what we're really trying to encourage is not to sell you a retreat, but to consider that the investment in your mental health and the investment in your relationship it's so worth it. I mean, the couples are now coming back and they've come back to see us and they're like so much closer and they're literally walking in like glowing. It's a privilege to see, honestly.
Absolutely.
So I think that's another thing I want to get out there is, we were talking on one of the previous shows about the stigma of therapy and the stigma of even going on a couple retreat. Mm-hmm. Do you tell people that you're going on something like this? And does this mean that you're the person with the problem? What what does it mean to go on a retreat like that? Does it mean that you are psychologically unhinged? I think that's the fear. And I think that one of the reasons I do share with my clients that for sure my husband and I love stuff like that is because as a therapist, I certainly don't want to purvey the image that couples don't go through struggles. Couples go through struggles. And if I can learn a technique that helps me to be closer with my husband, not only is that a win-win, but that's also a win for my children. And I do want to emphasize that your couple affects your children. If my couple or your couple are not going well, children are good. I just finished a session with a couple that were saying they're going through a hard time and their children are starting to act out. Children really pick up on this. So it's also the biggest gift you can give your children. And I think that's very powerful.
Absolutely. And you know, I hear all the time about this is like, I don't want to go on something like this. There's a stigma. It means that something's wrong with me. You know, as a manager of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression, I could honestly tell you, we get all walks of life come into the clinic, and they are always, you know, skeptical at first, but when they are seen by the therapist, they're like, wow, why didn't I always do this? This is so good for me. I really get to know myself better. I have healthier relationships. So we really should take the stigma out of this.
We need to. And
really,
that's a big part of the show.
And you know, Sandra, your vision, I'd love to know more about your vision with the center, because this is an absolutely safe place for anybody who's looking to get help. So,
well, you know, it's a bit like, when I went to school, this is bad, but when I went to school, I found that a lot of the people I went to school with, although very nice, I wasn't sure that some of them I'd want to go to therapy with. And it wasn't their fault. It's because a lot of the idea originally that I learned about therapy is, you know, sort of this person who sits in front of you and they've got the answers and you're the one with the problem. And I really did not want to design a center like that. And I really am big on living your best life. I mean, you have a history and so do I. And there are struggles in life. But I also believe, and it says this actually on my bio, I believe you can turn your lemons into lemonade. And I felt like if I've done that in my life, and I really believe I did, I feel like there was a period that was quite challenging and now it's really quite good. I believe that why did I have to go to therapy school or to learn all this? Why did I only learn this if I was studying psychology? Why can't everybody have these tools? So my vision is to help people live their best lives. So it doesn't have to always be about the heavy stuff. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just about you love your husband, you love your wife, you want to be closer. I'm particularly interested in couples and relationships and family dynamics. And the other thing is that I'm very, very interested in children. Although I don't treat children, I treat adults because I think adults are the ones who are going to be parenting the children. And I think your relationships will affect children observing you. And I think every child deserves a childhood. And I think that sometimes we're not seeing that because our own parents have gone wrong. And unfortunately, we repeat those patterns unless we become aware of where we're going wrong. So that was the vision of the center. And since then, I've become surrounded by these incredible people, and each one of them has brought their own flavor to it. But again, I want to say that there's people listening who are not in Montreal. There are centers all over the world, and finding the right person is important. But if there's something in your life that's hurting you or you're having a hard time with it or a couple issue, I think it's worth giving it a shot. I really do. What have you got to lose? Definitely there's a cost, but I don't know. My quality of life, I think, might be more worth it to me than dinner out tomorrow night. That's my thought on it.
Absolutely. And you know what? I want to tell you that you created a beautiful, safe space. The Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression truly, truly cares about the clients that come in the door. They truly care about the well-being and the success of the center's clients. And Sandra, I'm always at awe whenever I see, because I do the intake, whenever I see the work that's done here at the center under your guidance, it's always such a beautiful, rewarding feeling. You know, being part of the center is a beautiful, rewarding feeling. And being part of those very special couple retreats is just the next level of watching people, thanks to your guidance, become the best that they can be. And that is so important.
That's really beautifully said. We must take a break. Okay. We'll be back with Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Follow follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reish. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety video therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you choose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
If the financial markets interest you, if you want to potentially earn a higher return, if you're not satisfied with your investment returns, or if you're only making 1% on your investments sitting in the bank, do you see the stock market hitting record highs but feel you have no one to trust? Voice America's own Jordan Kimmel, the host of Magnet Investing for over 7 years, is applying his strategies of magnet investing and is managing individual accounts. Jordan Kimmel has joined InvestView, the Red Bank, New Jersey investment education and asset management firm, and his team can help you. Contact Jordan and the team at InvestView at 732-380-7271 or by email at jkimmel@investview.com. If you would like a complimentary portfolio review or to speak to a representative, call us. Past performance of investments are not indicative of future results. Investing is inherently risky. All recommendations should be researched by the investor. Call InvestView at 732-380-7271. That's 732-380-7271.
Your favorite Voice America Talk Radio Network shows and hosts are in your car, outdoors, and wherever you need them to be. Listen anywhere. Get our mobile app for iPhone, BlackBerry, or Android at the Apple iTunes App Store, BlackBerry App World, or Android Market.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. My special guest today is Robert Wise. I'm sure enjoying having you discuss this with me, Robert. There are so many things about relationships, and I guess you were talking about mission, and I guess even with this show, I invite people to call in and ask their questions. There are no silly questions because it's a human struggle. I mean, there's also a lot of differences between men and women and in same-sex relationships as well. And again, there are certain areas that people get stuck, and I know you wanted to ask something about that.
Yes, I'm just curious now that I have you here with me, that I'm here with you. Where do you find people get stuck in their relationship?
Well, it's funny. I've been in session all day today, so it's a great day to ask me. I've had one couple after another. I think I've seen 6 couples today. And what couples like to do when they come in is they like to blame the other person, which is, I understand that because wouldn't it be nice if the problem was only my husband, not me? I would love that personally. I'm sure he's listening and enjoying that right now. But the problem is, and skillful couples are what John Gottman calls masters of relationships. The masters understand that there is always a dance. So if a partner is not treating you well, before you go into victim, and say, oh my God, I'm being treated poorly. I can't believe how he treats me, or I can't believe how she treats me. Your first question to yourself after the infraction is, what's my part in this? And when I say this to couples, a lot of times there's resistance because it's a lot more fun to blame someone than to look at your own stuff. But again, the greater picture is, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? So I think what we have to be careful in our relationships is looking at our role. So that means that just when you think you have a convincing case against someone and you've decided they did you wrong, it's such an incredible quality, and it's not easy to do. I warn you, it's not easy, but it's worth a muscle worth developing to go, okay, hold on though. What did I do? What's my part in this? And, you can think of situations where, you feel your partner is grumpy with you. They're not being nice to you. They're not being attentive to you. And if you go into the question, what's my part in this? You may notice that you haven't been asking about their day lately. You've been focusing all your attention on the kids, and that creates a very different dialogue. So my couples who can do that can get out of therapy very quickly or do one retreat and be done with. But the couples that need the partner to be the perpetrator, that's a problem. That's a very, very problem. So we have to get we have to get rid of any name calling, defensiveness, contempt, sarcasm. We have to get rid of that. We have to get people taking responsibility for their lives. And that, by the way, is true of every show that we've done to date. We're talking about living your best life. You cannot live your best life unless you take responsibility for your life. The only time in your life that you're not responsible is when you're a child. So if you've had a bad childhood, and many of us have, that's terrible. But what do you do with it now? What are your options? And that's another concept I'm sure you've heard me talk about, choice. You're not stuck. Right. You're not stuck. So, to go back to it, is a couple that wants to get better has to want to be looking at both their parts of the dance. And there is always a dance, right? Between
Absolutely.
people. I know you've observed that yourself in many situations here at the clinic, and now you're running groups and you're seeing how it shows up for people.
Absolutely. And it's all about, I find that it's true. It's all about looking inside and taking responsibility and really, especially in a relationship, really knowing your part, your role.
It's hard though, Robert, isn't it?
It's very hard.
Yeah.
That's why we need you, Sandra. Yeah. That's why we need you.
Well, I find it hard too. I mean, when you're angry, I know isn't your first thought to just want to blame the other person and feel sorry for yourself.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's our human nature. And I think we have to evolve to want to go towards understanding that if someone's reacting in a negative way towards you, they're also probably been hurt about something. Mm-hmm. And that is a muscle like lifting a 3-pound weight. The more you lift it, the better, the stronger you get at it. Before we go any further, I see that we have a call from Mindy. Hi, Mindy.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Oh my God. It's such a pleasure to speak to you. I'm so happy I got the line.
Oh, well, thanks for calling.
Wow. So it's a very interesting show. I love all of your shows, but I'm so happy that today you're talking about the couples retreat because actually, I've seen that you were doing that, and I've been talking to my husband, and I was telling him, oh my God, we need to go. We really need to go.
Oh, how great.
Yeah, because, we really need to go. But the thing is, I've talked to him, and I got to say that he's worried about us airing our dirty laundry because, it's a group setting. So he's really not comfortable with that. And I don't know what to tell him. I don't know what can I say to him, to reassure him, or because at this point I find that we really need to come, and he's blocked.
And I see you're in Montreal, and our next one is very close to Montreal. Okay, I have a really great answer for you here. I want you to tell your husband that every couple who came on my last retreat had the exact same concern. And I would actually say that 95% of the people who were most concerned were the men. And I get that, because just because you want to work on your couple does not mean you want to be on the Oprah show telling every problem you have. This is not the Oprah show. Yeah. It really isn't. Okay, so the way the couple retreats work is that I teach and you get exercises and you go off with your partner alone to practice the exercises. So you do not have to share a single thing with the other couples. Now, what was very interesting at the last couple of retreats is I had to reassure people that, especially the men, that you don't have to say one word. And you can tell your husband he absolutely does not have to say one word, and he'll still get everything out of it. Because again, I give you the exercises. You go wherever you want to practice them. No one needs to hear your stuff. However, what was interesting as a sidebar is, we didn't talk about this, is there was a camaraderie that started with the couples. And it slowly but surely, people decided they did want to share. And it was interesting what happened. It was a domino effect. Now, there were still couples that did not want to share and chose not to share. And no one will ever be asked on a couple retreat to to share their stuff because I do think that's putting people on the spot. But I have to tell you, I was amazed. And the reason I'm doing it again, I was amazed at the safety that was created. One couple decided to share something, a very big thing in their past. And all of a sudden, one of the husbands who specifically asked me that he doesn't want to say anything on the retreat put his hand up and said, I'm so inspired by what I just heard. I need to share something with my wife that I haven't told her in the last 20 years of our marriage. It was that great.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But
serious?
again, please tell your husband that could happen, but does not have to happen. Is that what you saw as well, Robert?
Absolutely. There is absolutely no pressure put
No,
on.
we don't believe in the pressure.
No, and it's also, what's so beautiful about the retreats is that everybody is there because they all want to improve the relationship. So, there is this everyone's with like-minded people. So they start to feel very comfortable, and people who feel, like Sandra said, that they don't want to share start to share.
They don't have to.
And they absolutely don't have to.
But people did. And, so much so, Mindy, that, believe it or not, every single person who came to the Mexico retreat, which is where we did our last one, rebooked for the next one. And these were all the people who, like your husband, were very shy and really not comfortable. And I want you to tell your husband that I respect that, and that you respect that. There's nothing wrong with him not wanting to share with strangers. I totally get that. He doesn't have to.
Oh, well, that's so reassuring because, what he was saying is that I don't want this to be kumbaya and things like that.
No.
'Cause, we've been to couple therapy, but it's just we're blocked. So I said, this is the way to go. And I really think we need it. But then he was saying, but it's, there's going to be a stranger listening to the stories. I don't want that. So, well, it's very reassuring what you're saying.
No stories being shared, and I promise you, no kumbaya. Okay? A lot of good times. We had a lot of fun, a lot of learning, but your stories and whatever you want to be private stays 100% private. He will never be on the spot. I give you my word.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, this is great news for me. This is great news. So thank you about this.
Thank you, Mindy, and thank you for your call.
Oh, thank you. So I guess I will be seeing you shortly at the retreat, huh?
Oh, my God, that sounds fabulous. So it's taking place in Mont Tremblant, which is just about 2 hours out of Montreal, in case people don't know. And it's actually a gorgeous part of, if you've never been to Canada, this is one that is interesting. And of course, we also have one later in the year back in Mexico. So up to people where they want to go. You're local, so I assume you'll come with us. But again, if you want to go with other couple retreats, there's lots of options around the world.
Oh, my goodness. God bless. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your call, Mindy.
Thank you.
I'm so glad Mindy called and asked that question because it is a very big issue for people that they don't want, they don't want their private business being aired. And I think that's why confidentiality is such a big part of therapy and retreats. The laws are very strict on confidentiality. I mean, many clients come in and they say to me, I'm about to tell you something, Sandra, but you can't repeat it. And I remind them that it's actually against the law for me to repeat it. I mean, there are exceptions to confidentiality. Like, example, if somebody says they're about to kill someone, I'm allowed to call the police. But for the most part, when somebody comes into, be it a retreat or individual therapy, maybe people don't know this, we're not allowed to go home and discuss this with our partners or, gossip to our colleagues. It is all 100% confidential. And I really personally don't believe in putting people under pressure. I'm personally a very shy person. No one ever believes me because I'm a big talker, but I am secretly shy and private, and I would not want to be put on the spot. So we don't do that at all.
No, never.
Believe it or not, we're hitting another break. So let's take a break and we'll come back with Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Your favorite Voice America Talk Radio Network shows and hosts are in your car, outdoors, and wherever you need them to be. Listen anywhere. Get our mobile app for iPhone, BlackBerry, or Android at the Apple iTunes App Store, BlackBerry App World, or Android Market.
Ladies, how about a luxurious weekend while learning to empower yourself? Join Straight Talk's Sandra Reish January 29th at a gorgeous spa in Quebec for 3 days and 2 nights of empowerment, growth, and decadence. Delicious food, powerful learning, and much more. Life 2.0 The Retreat. Master how to command respect in your relationships. Learn about yourself and what is blocking you from living your best life. Meet other like-minded women and join in on the retreat that sells out year after year. Isn't it time you chose you? Call us at 514-796-4357. That's 514-796-4357. Don't miss your chance to change your life and relationships forever.
Are you feeling slammed and suckered in today's stock market? If so, then you need to tune in to Profitable Investing with Jordan Kimmel. Every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, Jordan Kimmel will train you in what you can do to beat up the big boys on Wall Street, as well as share his secrets to success so that you can buy and sell like a profit-pumping pro. Grab the bull market by the horns and listen to Profitable Investing with Jordan Kimmel. Every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, right here on the Bottom Line in Business Talk, Voice America Business.
Follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
Wow. Welcome back to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Oh my God. Even on the commercials, we are chatting up a storm here about relationships and so many questions that people like to know. And so many times I get asked about relationships and about fighting in particular. Robert, you were asking me a very smart question.
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, my question to you actually is there such thing as a healthy fight?
Oh God, yes. Okay. So again, I want to reiterate that avoiding conflict is also going to eventually lead to a blockage in your intimacy. Now let's talk about why. Okay. I like to talk about intimacy as into me see. Literally, you're seeing inside of me. Okay. So if I'm angry with you, my partner, and I'm not sharing with you what I'm feeling, how can we have intimacy, emotional or physical? My body is going to be tense because I'm holding my emotions down. Now, what gets people, why people avoid conflict is they don't know how to have a healthy conflict. So a healthy conflict is where, this is a lot of what the retreat is about, is learning to listen, a very lost art. So when people are upset, they're to be able to, and this is ego strength, to be able to put your stuff aside instead of getting defensive. We all naturally get defensive, and try to wonder what is really going on here. So if my husband is getting mad at me and it seems like it doesn't make sense to me, you got to go a little layer deeper and try to figure out what could be hurting him or her. One of my couples said to me today, the woman's very reactive. And she said to me that a strategy I gave her to remind herself when her partner is really upsetting her is to remind herself that she loves him and he loves her. And it completely calms her down. So I think that's a good one. My husband and I have a technique that when we're fighting, we'll often say, I still love you. Okay. Sometimes not so lovingly. Sometimes it's, I still love you. It's not always that happy a thought. The other thing is we talked about avoidance. My husband, like, again, opposites attract. He sometimes will need a break during an argument. Men often do. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to tell your partner, I need a break, but I'll be back in 15 minutes. And that's very hard on the anxious attachment style I talked to you about, where someone wants to resolve something. So it's very important to have those tools and those techniques in place so that if you need a break, if you're about to say something that you're going to regret, that you can say to your partner, I need to take a break, but I will be back, and you need to say when you're going to be back. And by the way, you need to come back or else that will be an abandonment. And then that's a safe fight. Because you're hearing me, I'm hearing you, I'm being respectful of the fact that you need time. You're being respectful of the fact that I want resolution. And guess what? At the end of that fight, when we make a resolution, and a resolution, by the way, is often a negotiation, because if you want to win everything, then you can stay single. So if you're with someone, it's a negotiation. There's a new level of intimacy between us because we just survived a difficult situation. And I'm sure you can see how that would create closeness.
You know what, Sandra, that actually makes total sense. That's actually such a, it's such a good skill to have, and be able to have that healthy fight where you could take the time you need. But I like that what you said, you need to come back, and you need to, have that safety between the two of you. It seems like that would definitely create more intimacy as well.
Yes, and it's very important in relationships to have safety. I'm very big on saying that a relationship that can't survive a conflict is not a relationship. What that means is if I'm having a relationship with anyone, really, you, a friend, anyone, and I say, listen, something bothered me about something you did, and they're like, well, too bad for you. That's a difficult relationship. I'm not sure how I can continue that relationship. I wouldn't, necessarily end it, but I need to be myself. And so if something hurts me, I need to be able to say the truth and know that it may sound odd to you, but that you care enough about me to be curious. Like, why does that bother you, Sandra? I don't understand. Can you say more? And that's what healthy couples do. They ask questions. They say, I say this sometimes to my husband, I see you're getting upset. I'm not quite understanding what you're getting upset about. Can you help me understand? And that goes a long way to diffusing the tension. Also, we're all different, and we're supposed to be different. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. So be curious about your partner.
Okay. Maybe this discussion about healthy fights has brought up something for someone, because we have a call from Gina. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Sandra.
How are you?
I'm good. I have a question for Robert.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Gina.
He loves that.
Hi.
I know that you said that you attended the couples retreat, and I'm really curious, as you being someone who's not a therapist, about those huge transformations that you saw in the couples. Like, do you think that doing a retreat is better than couple therapy for a couple that wants to have a more fulfilling connection?
Well, Gina, that's a very interesting question. I don't like to say I think it's better than individual couple therapy in an office. I think it's different, and I think that it's different in a very, in a different way, in that it's intensive. It's done on a beautiful island. There's lots of time to really spend with your partner, to really practice the exercises, to really, experience the journey in a small amount of time, but with a lot of time. So is it better? Not necessarily, but wow, does it really bring the couple to a next level quicker, faster? And I'll tell you, what I like about it also is that it gives them the opportunity to mix some body and mind exercises as well, which they couldn't do in an office in that kind of environment.
And I would add in that sorry, go ahead, Gina.
Well, I'm thinking, because I don't think that my husband would really want to go to couples therapy. I'm not sure. I think that he would say, you know what, I would go to a retreat. It doesn't sound as daunting. It's not as scary. And I don't know. I'm really trying to think about, you don't have huge issues, but that maybe that would be a nice way that we can really kind of connect and have fun together.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Gina, my husband and I like sometimes to do these things, and we have a very happy couple, and it's just adding even a little more happiness to it. And for your first question, I do think that therapy and couple retreats are not mutually exclusive. So it can be a great adjunct. And if he's more interested in a couple retreat, he could do a couple retreat. And if he feels there's more to work on, possibly at that point, he might be open to couple therapy. But you certainly don't have to be in trouble to want to work on your relationship. It's like going to the gym when you have a lot of muscles. You still want to work on getting to the next level. And I think that's the true of humans and couples in general.
And have you ever had any couples that went on the retreat and then after that were then more open to doing couples therapy?
Every one of them, actually. The ones that weren't already my clients before all became clients afterwards, because they were so pleased to see what can happen if you start to have those conversations. That's a really good question.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for your call. It was a really thoughtful question, and one that I think helps lots of other people. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you. You know, Robert, the time has just flown by so very quickly. I just want to say, first of all, thank you very much for being on the show. You've been such an interesting adjunct to, as an observer of what goes on around here. I want to mention that you're running groups these days on mindfulness. And I know you wanted me to mention that the holidays can be a difficult time for people, and that we certainly have things to help people during that time, and they can call you. Let them know where they can reach you if they need any help.
Absolutely. The holidays is a very difficult time for people. So we want you to know that the Montreal Centre for Anxiety and Depression will be around during the holiday season. We have a group which I'll be leading on mindfulness, guided meditation to help with the holiday blues. My phone number to be contacted at the center is 514-777-4530. So if you want to call for an appointment, you want to know more about the groups or anything, call us at 514-777-4530.
And I just want to say, as everybody knows, I've got a retreat coming up in January. All the information is on the Facebook and on the website. It's 3 days, 2 nights at the beautiful Spa Eastman. It's been life-changing for women who have come on this retreat. We're gearing up now for the end of the year, and I want to leave you with a message of living your best life, reaching for the stars, and see you in 2016. Oh, Robert,
and just on a side note about the retreats, just sorry to say, just very quickly, is that I know people who personally have gone on these retreats. The women have said that it has literally changed their lives. They were able to build their self-esteem, build their self-worth, and really get to know themselves better and feel better about themselves. Plus, they said they felt like it was a very bonding woman experience. So really good stuff.
Just to be clear, that's a women's retreat. That's not the couple retreat. But again, all the information is on the website, helpforanxietydepression.com. I'm Sandra Reish from Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Happy New Year. Let's reach the stars in 2016 and keep your eyes on the stars.
Thank you for having me, Sandra. You are an inspiration and one of the kindest people I've ever met in my life. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. We hope you've enjoyed today's show, and we'll tune in again next Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. Now, go live your best life.
Thanks again for listening to the preceding program, brought to you on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericahealth.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the preceding program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio